Now, looking at this graph, all right, you have these four terms we need to talk about. What are these terms? What are they each? So does anybody know what any of those are on this graph? Someone noticed that your zeros are right there. So these right here are your zeros. And the coordinates are -2, 0, and 4, 0. Those right there are your zeros. I'm going to label it here too. Now you don't have to have the E on the zeros. It has it some places without. There are two other names for zeros. Zeros are also known as x-intercepts. I'm going to abbreviate it. And there's another one that starts with an R. They're the bottom of a tree. They're called roots. Now, we can use any of those names. Roots I use least, but I usually use these two names the most. So those names right there, those two dots, are called zeros, x-intercepts, roots. The next one is, let's talk about y-intercepts. Y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So right there at -8. So if we write that as a coordinate, that right there is your y-intercept. Don't you love my beautiful handwriting? And as a coordinate, that is 0, -8. That is my y-intercept. All right, the vertex. The vertex is the highest or lowest point. This one is the minimum. So it's right there. So my vertex is right there. Call that vertex. And what would be that coordinate? Well, it would be over 1 and down 9. The last one, axis of symmetry, is the line right down the middle here. That kind of, if you were to fold this graph, it would be kind of right down the middle. It would fold and match like a butterfly's wings. So that equation of that line, I call it the A of S, axis of symmetry. It's abbreviation, A of S. It's not like a technical abbreviation. I just use it. And so you would write it as x equals 1. Now I am picky. If you don't write x equals 1, it's wrong. It's not just 1, it's x equals 1. Because vertical lines are the equation x equals. Horizontal are y equals. Verticals are x equals. So I want the equation of the axis of symmetry. So we just quickly found 4 definitions, 4 points, 4 situations or parts of this graph. You need to learn these and spot these. Okay, they're very important. These 3 functions are the same function, just different forms of the same function. They are the functions of this graph right here. They each have a special name. Each one has a special or different benefit. Each one has a benefit to it. It gives you a piece of the graph very easily. The easiest of the 3 that gives you probably the best thing is vertex form. Hopefully you can figure out what the vertex form is probably going to give you. Which of these 4 do you think the vertex form will give you? Hopefully you have good problem solving and think, maybe the vertex? I would assume the vertex would give you the vertex form might give you the vertex. And do you see the vertex right there? Do you see the 1, -9 right there? So with the vertex form, you know the vertex instantaneously. So vertex form will give you the vertex. Now, vertex form is written like this. It kind of relates to those absolute values. Do you remember them? Doesn't it look like an absolute value function formula? So the vertex is always going to be, HK. Are we okay with that? It's always HK is the vertex. Just remember, it's always the opposite of H. Just be careful about that. Now the next form that gives you something useful, I think I like the most, is intercept form. Now, by the name of it, is it probably going to give you some sort of intercept? So which one do you think it is? Is it going to be my y-intercept or my zeros, which are my x-intercept? Look carefully at it. Which one do you notice? Look at those 2 numbers. Which one is it giving you? Do you notice by those two numbers, isn't it giving the opposite of these? So what's nice about intercept form, it's giving you your zeros. Okay, so intercept form is going to give you your zeros. And in this situation, my zeros are going to be these two numbers. Now, it's going to give you your zeros. The zeros, as you can tell up here, right up there, my zeros, now, with intercept form, what you want to always realize, it's always going to be the opposite of these two numbers. So you might want to write the word opposite here. Okay, it's always the opposite of them, but can you tell it's just those two numbers are going to be your zeros? So it's kind of nice. Quickly gives you the where it crosses the x-axis. Now standard form does give you something too. Look right there. Standard form gives you something. Look at the four options up here. Do you see it? Standard form gives you this guy, which is your y-intercept. Now, I want to write down what standard form looks like. You guys have seen this in Algebra 1. Go ahead and write this down. Hopefully you remember that ABCs. A is your x squared, B is your x, and C is a number by itself. But standard form will give you your y-intercept. And your y-intercept is always going to be 0C. Okay, it's 0C. The C value is your y-intercept. So that value, the C, is always going to be your y-intercept. So standard form gives you y-intercept, intercept form gives you zeros, and vertex form gives you vertex. Which one gives you the axis of symmetry? All of them. All of them give you axis of symmetry. This one gives it the easiest, then this one's the second easiest, this one's kind of annoying. But we can get axis of symmetry very quickly through all of them. So let's do axis of symmetry next. For this one, the axis of symmetry, look carefully. Isn't the axis of symmetry go through the vertex? Always. The axis of symmetry goes through the vertex always. So my A of S for the bottom one, isn't it always going to be x equals h? Isn't the axis of symmetry always going to go through the h value of my vertex? So bam. I like vertex form because it gives you the vertex and axis of symmetry very quickly. The intercept form is a little bit more complicated to get your axis of symmetry, but look at this. Look between those two red dots. Isn't the axis of symmetry exactly between? Isn't it the average of these two dots? Doesn't average mean between two things? So could I average these two numbers to get my axis of symmetry? So what I'm going to do for my middle one is I'm going to average my two dots. So I'm going to average -2 and 4, and I get 1, my axis of symmetry. So to get my axis of symmetry, pushed by A of S, to get my axis of symmetry for my middle one, I'm going to average my two zeros, because it's always going to be right in the middle. And the last one is kind of annoying. You'll probably remember this because standard form is what you use most in Algebra 1. But the way you get your axis of symmetry when you're in standard form is the formula x equals -b over 2a. It's just a formula. You have to use this formula. You put in a and b, and you'll get your axis of symmetry. All three give it to you. This one gives it the easiest. I think this is the second easiest. This one needs some work. Each one has a benefit, something it gives you very quickly and easily.